You guys want to hear something crazy? Exposé is in my top 25 all-time Lost episodes. I love this episode, it is the most meta episode of them all. Before I tell you why, we have to cover the character movements. In terms of treks on the island, we've already covered a bunch of them. All the on-island flashbacks have been scattered throughout the previous seasons. At sunrise, Paolo meets Nikki on the beach and says he's glad they never found the diamonds. Nikki begs Sawyer for a gun, which he refuses. Nikki goes to Art's old tent, then take Paolo out into the jungle, uses one of Art's Medusa spiders to paralyze him and take the diamonds. Then she is paralyzed by spiders, whose appearance is accompanied by the sound of the monster. We already know that the monster can take the shape of others, so did he take the shape of a spider? This also confirms that he takes the shape of multiple beings, as seen here. I really think it was the monster. So, Nikki runs through the jungle, buries the diamonds, staggers toward the camp. She collapses. Thinking Nikki said Paolo lies, Hurley suggests looking for Paolo. They find him.
Whoa. I'm guessing that's Paolo.
Back in the camp, Charlie examines Art's bug collection Nikki and Paolo kept. Sawyer finds a walkie in their luggage and suggests that they were working with the others. Vincent uncovers the unconscious pair. Sun still thinks it was the others doing it, until Charlie tells her he attacked her as part of Sawyer's con. Off screen, Sawyer does a perimeter sweep, digs up the diamonds since he realized Nikki was digging before she collapsed. Later, Sawyer comes back and says he had nothing to do with the murder and gives Sun the diamonds he dug up. Late afternoon, Sawyer digs the graves, Sun confronts him and returns the diamonds. Then the burial starts. So sad to see so few here. Only a third of the camp showed up to their funeral. Nikki awakes from her paralysis just as they are buried alive. I want to talk a little bit more about this episode, because you might have wondered why the heck do I love this episode. It has a fantastic sense of wit. It is the funniest episode of Lost, if you don't count numbers.
You know there is no such thing as a...
Not only due to the hysterical lines, but the way it pokes fun of itself. The writers already knew that Nikki and Paolo didn't work as characters.
You know, honestly, even on the Nikki and Paolo thing, by the time the audience reacted, we had already kind of cut bait. We realized the sort of foolishness of our ways. But you know, we're writing the show way out in front of the audience. I mean, particularly in this last season, by the time the show premiered, we were working on episode 14.
The teaser of that show is Nikki basically comes staggering out of the jungle and she collapses and Hurley says, "Oh my God, it's Nikki," and then Sawyer goes, "Who the hell is Nikki?" And, you know, so
that was a very wink to the audience.
But we broke the fourth wall because logistically speaking, they would all know each other's names, but by Sawyer acknowledging, I also do not like these characters, suddenly it made it okay. And that was our way of saying to you guys, hey, we made a mess, and now instead of, one option was that Nikki and Paolo are never seen or heard from again. The other option was, let's do an episode about them with Billy D. Williams in it.
So they went 100% on this episode. The episode is funny because it's a great satire of Lost, but also American TV shows in general. Just from the very first flashback, we see how different it is.
That means, Mr. Lashad, you're the Cobra.
Sorry, baby, it's just business.
All this time it was you. Razzle dazzle!
The music is almost like a sly reference to the types of show that popularized Oahu as a filming location before Lost, like Magnum P.I. and Hawaii Five-0.
You're stonewalling me, Paige, and I don't like it.
What are you hiding?
Why do I suddenly feel like a trout that's about to have the hook set?
Fast-paced, somewhat cheesy shows about wiping out crime on this colorful island.
I was, expecting someone.
Aren't we all?
Yeah?
It's me. He just came in.
Good. Make it work. And make it clean.
After all, Lost couldn't move into Hawaiian Film Studio in the first season since it was occupied by the show's North Shore and Hawaii. Not only that, the type of music is very reminiscent of crime and TV shows in general. They hired a well-known actor, Billy D. Williams, and cast him to play himself. It's the only time that happens on the show, and it's because the episode is a big behind-the-scenes show. Nikki getting killed here but being alive in real life is a foreshadowing to the island events. And then we have the longest camera shot on the show. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm very certain this is it.
Oh, thank you. Billy D, it was so great working with you.
Well, the pleasure's all mine. Thank you so much.
You're sweet.
Take care.
You too.
All right, that's a series wrap for Corvette. Let's hear it for Nikki.
Well done, Rob. Well done, Nikki. Thank you. Thanks.
Brilliant, Nikki, as always.
You know, you don't need to die. We can bring you back next season.
How?
Well, we could say that Corvette was wearing a bulletproof vest. Bulletproof breast.
Look, I'm just a guest star. We all know what happens to guest stars.
Now that your work's done here, I suppose you'll be leaving Sydney and heading back to LA.
No, I'm not leaving Sydney. I love you.
The only exception is this shot in LAX, but it technically stops as soon as it zooms into the Jack's window. The rest is just a computer-generated animated sequence, which was not filmed, so Exposé did it. This shot is almost a minute long, so as soon as the TV show ends and Bill D picks up Nikki, the long take starts. Because a TV show is edited and real life isn't, so it isn't until they're out of the film studio when Lost decides to make a cut. And this film studio, which coincidentally is the same film studio with the Lost sets, one of these buildings are likely part of the interiors of the barracks. This scene is so meta that even the clapper has the name Stephen Williams.
This episode, 314, follows the failing fortunes of two relatively new characters on our show, Nikki and Paolo.
Which is the director of the TV show Exposé, as well as the director behind the last episode, Exposé. It's also written on this chair, but this is not Stephen Williams in real life.
Look, I'm just a guest star. We all know what happens to guest stars.
This line fits really well with the TV industry, but it reminds us that this is not necessarily the case for Lost. Lost subverts it, often getting guest actors, and then, if the writers and audience like them, they find a way to keep them on the show. Michael Emerson and Henry Ian Cusick being two good examples. And often, guest actors appear multiple times after their character is dead. Nikki and Paolo never appeared again. The next flashback has Howard L. Zuckerman saying this.
Apparently back home, he's the Wolfgang Puck of Brazil.
Wow.
This is in fact another meta-reference to the casting of Rodrigo Santoro as Paulo. The showrunner said this: he keeps getting described to us as the Brazilian Tom Cruise, although we like to refer to him as the Brazilian Russell Crowe. The key around Howard's neck is further emphasized by Kate's line later in the episode.
The case is locked. The key is around Jack's neck, all right? I promise you they're safe.
You're all out of control.
As well as the foreshadowing of this line since there are no evidence of their demise.
What?
Ashes are evidence, Paolo. We poisoned him. Let's not poison ourselves.
You can already tell that this episode is a big candy bag of references.
Maybe it was a dinosaur.
It's not Jurassic Park, Paolo. It's the South Pacific.
Wheeling uniform direction changes, just like a flock of birds evading a predator.
Gonna go more sci-fi or more character development? Is this gonna be Survivor with raptors or what?
First off, I want to go on record as saying there are no dinosaurs on the island. Scout's honor, there hasn't been, there won't be, it'll never happen.
The story operates on multiple levels at once while being a self-contained drama, like a Twilight Zone episode. There's not even a previously on Lost for this one. It's one of the most rewatchable episodes in the series for me, which ironically is an episode a lot of fans skip. The many layers are emphasized through the Matryoshka dolls. When we open a Matryoshka doll, we only find another one inside it, and then another one. Just like we open the hatch to find answer, to find Desmond as source of information, but then someone else becomes the source of information, and then someone else. and then someone else that has been here much longer, and then someone else that has been here even longer, and then to the final Matryoshka, the grandmother. It's like mother's answer. Every question and answer will simply lead to another question.
If you quit flirting with random guys, maybe you could actually get on the plane.
Promise me we'll never end up like them.
The line "promise we'll never end up like them" is funny because they became the annoying pretty couple, and they died both shortly after being introduced and are now laying next to each other in the graveyard. But they are all in fact candidates. Jacob brought everyone to the island because they were all flawed, and he didn't want to think that he was taking his candidates away from some great positive future. They are already like them. The next flashback sequence shows how desperate Nikki is in finding diamonds, just like so many other flawed characters on the show, like the man in black desperately seeking the light, the Diamond Initiative drilling to get to the energy, or Locke's desperation of opening the hatch leading to Boone's death, and like Paolo says at the end of the episode,
If you found the diamonds, you wouldn't need me anymore.
if we found the diamonds, all the answers to the show, we wouldn't need the show anymore, would we? The diamonds will be buried on the island for the remainder of the show and will be taken off the island with Miles when the show is finally over.
They call her the Medusa spider. Her pheromones are very strong. One whiff and every male of the species would be here in seconds.
We've already had references to Greek mythology. The Diamond Initiative called the monster for Cerberus, the guard dog of the underworld. Medusa, however, was a different monster, one of the Gorgons, with living venomous snakes of hair, and those who gazed into her eyes would turn to stone. Yet another clue of what happened to our characters. Time and time again, these characters bump into famous locations or events seen earlier in the show, always in the background. It's like referencing the play Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which chronicles the lives of two characters that were in Shakespeare's Hamlet. In Hamlet, the two characters are charged with determining Hamlet's motives and plans. Instead, they themselves are killed. The characters are thrust into the universe of Hamlet in much the same way that Paolo and Nikki were thrust into ours. They seem to serve no valid purpose and are generally mocked throughout.
That's it then, is it? Done nothing wrong. Didn't harm anyone, did we?
In Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, however, much like this episode, the playing field is reversed. They are the major characters, with Hamlet being the character with misappropriated importance. This type of story was also parodied in works such as Lion King 1.5, with Timon and Pumbaa being much more involved than in the original film. Nikki and Paolo just being in the background and bumping into famous scenes on the island through the past seasons is something that Jacob will do in the season 5 finale, seemingly being part of famous scenes, maybe in the background. The episode breaks the usual genre of Lost and gives us a comedic, colorful crime mystery. Sawyer is even reading an Agatha Christie novel on the beach. The attention to detail is spot on.
Now, in this scene, Sawyer is reading Evil Under the Sun by Agatha Christie.
I don't have the guns.
It was our sort of shout out to Agatha Christie and these kind of noir mysteries, and we just thought it would be a fun little thing to have Sawyer reading that while in the midst of his own murder mystery on an island.
Stick your head in the ocean and cool yourself off.
It's almost like a film noir episode. It has some of its typical elements, like the sexually alluring woman.
What causes the fall of the protagonist is generally a woman. We saw this in Sunset Boulevard, but it is found throughout film noir. The closest literary connection to these characters is the femme fatale, or a female character who seduces or lures men into compromising, dangerous, or deadly situations. This character type dates back to at least ancient Greece, where we saw examples with Medusa and also the Siren.
We were really inspired by, film noir. So what was fun here was, the perfect plan that seems to work out and then, of course, goes bad.
A sleazy bar, briefcase full of money, a murder mystery, the search for diamonds. And film noir was a type of Hollywood film that permitted an unhappy ending, but it lacks all other elements. The rainy scenes, the cinematography, and so on. So it's not really a film noir episode either.
No way. Mr. Lashad was the Cobra? Is that supposed to mean something?
Dude, the Cobra's this big bad guy. His identity's been shrouded in mystery for 4 seasons.
I love this piece of dialogue since it points to the various mysterious figures on Lost.
Cobra in Exposé equals Jacob in Lost,
Could we assume that Jacob is someone we saw on the show before, and that it will be a shock when we finally realize who Jacob is?
It would be awesome if Jacob turned out to be Billy D. Williams, but it's not true.
It'll be a shock, all right, though, that's for sure.
It would be a shock, yeah.
The glorious leader of the others, the one Ben calls a great man, is introduced in season 2.
Because the man in charge, he's a great man, John. A brilliant man.
And the identity of him is shrouded in mystery for 4 seasons. But then you have the Man in Black connection with the name Lashad, as in the shade, the smoke, the darkness. In the previous episode, Locke is watching Exposé and becomes the face of the Man in Black at the end.
Here's what we know, Crystal. The Bolivian gold deposits were stolen last night around 2 a.m.
Autumn, that means the Cobra. He's back.
Locke even says that things don't stay buried on the island, since in the future, someone posing as John Locke will be walking on the island, while John Locke is buried. I mean, Lashad was the Cobra, the Shade is the snake, the serpent, a symbol of evil power. The Man in Black's mission is ever so present in this episode. The monster is mentioned a lot in this episode.
I'm with Jin. It's the monster.
Yeah, because that makes the most sense.
It does. Locke said when Echo died, his last words were, "You're next." And Nicky and Paolo were with them. He was talking about them.
He wasn't saying you're next about them. He was saying you're next as in you're all next.
And Sawyer is also on point here. Even though I think that the monster referred to Locke, the elimination of candidates are still the Man in Black's goal, and Man in Black succeeded. Heck, the situation in this episode is very similar to The Candidate, where Sawyer kills the lovely couple by pulling the wires off the bomb, and here he is the one who buries them, with Hurley, also a candidate, which gives us a fantastic and dark ending. Exposé is the episode of Lost that feels like it exists outside of Lost. It's an out-of-genre experience, but it really hits the core of Lost, much deeper than many of the episodes. A multi-layered and intelligently written piece. See you guys next week, and please subscribe for more island exploration.